Hi, and welcome back to Alignment by Tuba. And if you're new here, I am really glad that you found your way to this space. And I just want to say welcome to old listeners, to new listeners. I'm happy you're here today. The topic of today's episode is one I've had in the back of my mind for a little bit. And I really wanted to record this because it touches something that a lot of people experience. But it is usually something you don't really understand. And it is the feeling of exhaustion after workouts. And I don't mean the good kind of tired. I don't mean muscle fatigue. But I'm talking about the kind where your body feels tense, overwhelmed, and sometimes even anxious after you have gone through any kind of effort. Like going out from a workout and feeling that it didn't land as strength, but as stress. So if you have ever finished a workout and you felt more wired than grounded, more tense than strong, or strangely fatigued in a way that just didn't make sense, this episode is for you. Because sometimes this is not about fitness, and it is not about motivation, and it isn't about discipline. It is about the nervous system. It is about your nervous system. And today I will share something a bit more personal because I have lived this. I've lived this even while being physically strong, even while teaching movement every single day. So there was a period in my life after I was going through a burnout where something very strange started happening. For me, it was very strange. And this didn't happen during my workouts. It didn't happen during me teaching. But after something so simple. So this happened after I was walking up the stairs to my apartment. It was 3 floors. That's all. And every time I reached the top and I was in front of my door, my body didn't feel accomplished. My body collapsed. Like my system was shutting down. And the confusing part for me was that I knew that my body had the strength. I was teaching 4 to 5 Pilates classes a day. I was strong. I was physically capable, but my nervous system had learned something else. And that is what we are going to talk about today. So we'll start to talk about the part that confuses the people the most. Because what I hear from a lot of people, and especially people who are used to training and used to pushing themselves and staying active, is this strange experience where effort doesn't feel empowering anymore, where it feels confusing and unsettling. Like maybe you finished a workout and instead of feeling that grounded kind of tired, the kind where your muscles feel worked out, but your mind is still clear, you walk away and you feel shaky and not physically weak, but internally unsettled. Like your body is still alert and braced and tense, even though the workout is over. Or maybe your pulse rises, which is completely normal during exercise. But instead of feeling strong or energized, you feel anxious, like your body interprets that increased heart rate as something dangerous. Like you notice your breathing feels tight, your chest feels more tense, and your stomach maybe feels a little bit unsettled. And you start to think that, why does this feel like anxiety when I'm just working out? And some people describe even feeling completely drained after effort, and not the kind of fatigue that makes you feel accomplished, but the kind that really makes you feel heavy. Like your energy just disappears instead of replenishes. Like your body shuts down instead of recovering. And of course, that's where the confusion starts, because logically, you know that your body is capable. You have trained before. You have handled effort before. So why does it suddenly feel different now? And sometimes it doesn't even show up just during the workout or after the workout. It shows up a little bit later, like long after, like you finish the session, you have been doing your cool down, but yet your body still feels tense, still wired, still unable to fully settle. Like something in your system really didn't receive the message that the effort was over. And this is where I want to introduce a distinction that changes how you understand this experience. Because not all fatigue is the same fatigue. There is fatigue from training and there is fatigue from threats. Fatigue from training feels purposeful. Your muscles feel tired. Your body feels worked. But underneath that fatigue, there is a sense of stability, groundedness, that recovery feels possible. But fatigue from threat, that feels completely different. It feels heavier, it feels more overwhelming and less clear. It doesn't feel like strength, but it feels like survival. Like your system has been holding tension for too long. Like your body didn't just work, it braced. And this leads to something many people don't realize at first. Sometimes your body isn't tired from effort. It is tired from staying in survival mode. Not because you did something wrong and not because you are weak, but because your nervous system has been carrying load for longer than it had time to recover from. And when effort gets layered on top of that, the body doesn't always experience it as strength. Sometimes it experiences it as threat. So let's talk about what is actually happening. What is actually happening inside the body when this occurs? Because once you understand the mechanism behind this, it stops feeling mysterious for you and it starts making sense. When your heart rate rises during exercise, that is completely normal. That is what your body is designed to do. Your pulse increases, your breathing gets faster, and your muscles demand more oxygen. That is effort. That is strength. That is physiology working exactly as it should. But here's the part that most people do not realize. Every time that your heart rate rises, your nervous system checks the context. It asks, is this safe? Or is this a threat? And it makes that decision very quickly based on your history, not just the current moment. So if your body has gone through a period of chronic stress or burnout or high pressure without enough recovery, your nervous system becomes more sensitive to activation, more protective, more alert. And during those periods of prolonged stress, your body may have experienced elevated heart rate in very different contexts, maybe through stressful meetings, pressure, overwhelm, rushing, anxiety. Maybe you've been going under sleep deprivation, or just having a constant output without being able to rest. So your system starts pairing a fast pulse with survival. And here is where the misinterpretation begins. Later, when your heart rate rises during exercise, your body doesn't just feel effort, it feels familiarity. And if that familiarity has been linked to stress, the nervous system can misread what is happening. So your pulse increases, and instead of reading that as this is effort, your nervous system reads it as this feels like something I experienced during stress. And suddenly your body reacts as if something is wrong, even when it is not. There's a term for this process, and it is called interoception. And it sounds technical, but the idea behind this is actually very simple. Interoception is your brain's ability to interpret signals from inside your body. Things like your heart rate, your breathing, muscle tension, hunger, fatigue, temperature. All of those internal signals are constantly being monitored. So your brain doesn't just feel sensations, it makes meaning out of them, and it decides what they mean, whether they are safe or threatening or neutral. And when stress has been high for long periods, those interpretations can shift, not because your body is broken, but because it adapted. It learned to stay alert, to stay prepared, to stay protective. So now imagine this. Your heart rate increases during a workout, your breathing becomes faster, and your body heats up. All completely normal. That should happen during a workout. But if your system has been under prolonged stress, those sensations can feel eerily similar to anxiety. A faster pulse feels like panic. Changes in breathing feel unsafe, And fatigue, that triggers shutdown. Not because exercise is dangerous, but because the body remembers what similar sensations once met. So your body is not reacting to the exercise, it is reacting to what exercise reminds it of, not the workout itself. It is reacting to the memory of stress, the memory of overload, and the memory of pushing without recovering. And once you understand this, you stop blaming your body and you stop assuming something is wrong with your strength, or something is wrong with your discipline or your capacity. And instead, you begin to see this as a learned response that made sense at the time, one that protected you when stress was high, but also one that can be retrained. And this is not going to happen overnight, not forcefully, but gradually through safety and through repetition, through giving your nervous system new experiences to learn from. And I want to go back to my personal history here, because this wasn't just something that I learned from books or when I was studying, but this is something I lived in my own body. And at the time, it made absolutely no sense to me, because during that period in my life after burnout, where my body just started reacting in ways that I could never explain, like not during the workouts, not during teaching, during literally walking up those 3 floors to my apartment. That was not dramatic. That is not intense. It was something that I have done hundreds of times before without even thinking about it. And during that time, I was moving constantly and I was demonstrating exercises and supporting clients. I was using my body all day long teaching Pilates. So physically, I was strong, I was conditioned, and I was capable. There was absolutely no reason from a strength perspective that 3 flights of stairs should feel like a challenge. But yeah, every single time that I reached the top, something inside my body shifted, and not in my muscles, not in a way that felt like normal fatigue, but it felt so much deeper than that. Like I would walk up these stairs, reach the top, and open my door, and instead of just feeling accomplished for my day or slightly out of breath in a normal way, like from walking up the stairs, like my body just felt heavy. And all tired, like it felt heavy, like my system just shut down internally, like all the energy inside of me just drained out of me at once. And what made it even harder to understand was that I knew that my body could do more. I was teaching classes all day, right? I was moving with strength, I was holding control, I was guiding others through physical effort. So logically, this did not make sense for me. How could I be physically strong and still feel so overwhelmed by something this small? And I remember feeling confused, frustrated, even ashamed. And I was questioning myself and I was thinking like, what is wrong with me? Am I losing my strength? Am I more exhausted than I realized? And slowly over time, I began to understand what was actually happening. This was not physical weakness. This was not lack of conditioning. This was nervous system fatigue. And it is the kind that builds slowly. After long periods of stress, after pushing without enough recovery, and after staying in survival mode longer than the body was meant to. Because here is a thing many people do not realize, but strength does not protect you from burnout patterns. You can be strong, you can be disciplined, you can be fit and capable, and still feel internally exhausted, still feel dysregulated, still feel like your body is reacting in ways that don't match your physical ability. And the realization that changed everything for me was that my muscles were strong, but my nervous system didn't feel safe. That was the missing piece. Not strength, not effort, safety. And once I understood that, everything started to shift. Because instead of trying to push harder or prove that I was capable, I started listening differently. I started to support my body differently. And I started to learn how to rebuild safety, not just strength. And that is where the real turning point began. So once I started understanding my own experience, the next question became, why does this actually happen? Why does a body that is strong, capable, conditioned suddenly start reacting to effort like it is too much, like it is overwhelming, like it is unsafe. Why? And what I learned, both through my own recovery and through working with my clients, is that this doesn't happen randomly. It happens when the nervous system has been under stress for too long, without enough real recovery. And I'm not just talking about physical rest, but nervous system recovery, the kind where your body actually gets the message, you're safe now. Because during periods of chronic stress, and whether that is emotional stress, work stress, performance pressure, or physical overload, the nervous system starts pairing effort with survival. Think about what happens during prolonged stress. You're pushing, meeting deadlines, training hard, managing responsibilities, and showing up even when you're tired. You're staying productive even when your system is overwhelmed. And over time, effort stops feeling neutral and it starts feeling urgent, like something is necessary and non-negotiable, like something you have to do to keep up, to stay ahead, to hold everything together. And when that pattern repeats long enough, your nervous system begins to associate activation, like that feeling of increased heart rate or increased effort, it starts to associate that with survival. And here's what starts to shift internally. Like high activation, the kind you experience during workouts, becomes exhausting much faster. And not because your muscles are weak, but because your nervous system is already carrying load, already working overtime, already braced. So when effort is layered on top of that, the system feels overwhelmed more quickly. And another thing that happens is that your recovery window, it shrinks, meaning that your body has less space to return to baseline. It has less time to fully settle and less opportunity to reset. So instead of cycling between effort and recovery, you stay in activation longer, even after the effort ends and even after the workout finishes, even after the day is done. And when that happens repeatedly, your body becomes more sensitive to activation itself. Your pulse increases, and instead of reading that as this is effort, your nervous system reads it as this feels like pressure. This feels like overload. This feels like something I've experienced during stress. And that is when a rising heart rate starts to feel threatening. Not because it is, but because your body has learned to interpret it that way. And this pattern shows up especially often in people who are used to pushing themselves, like athletes, high performance, and coaches. In people who are disciplined, people who are committed, people who show up even when they are tired, and people who keep on going even when recovery hasn't fully happened. And not because they're careless, but because they are driven, they're reliable, they're responsible, and often praised for pushing through. But a shift I want you to really take in is if you recognize yourself in this, if effort suddenly feels heavier than it used to, or if your body reacts to activation with fatigue or anxiety, it does not mean that you have failed. It does not mean you are becoming weaker. And it does not mean that your body is broken. It means that you learned survival. And that is a completely different story. Your body learned survival, not failure. It adapted to the condition it was in, and it protected you when stress was high, and it stayed alert when recovery was limited. And it did exactly what it was designed to do. Keep you going, keep you functioning, and keep you safe. And the beautiful part of understanding this is that anything learned can be relearned through new experiences of safety and through giving your nervous system different signals than the ones it learned during stress. And that is what I want to talk about next, like how to actually support your body so that effort can start feeling like strength again. So once I had understood what was actually happening, the next step wasn't pushing myself any harder. And that was probably the most hardest shift to make, because when you're used to being strong and disciplined and capable, your first instinct is to prove that nothing is wrong, to train more, to push more, and override the signals. The first thing you tell yourself is, I just need to get back into it. But what I learned and what I now teach my clients is that recovery from this kind of fatigue isn't about pushing your body back into shape. It is about retraining safety slowly and repeatedly so that your nervous system actually can start to trust you. And the way I started doing that was through 3 simple but very powerful shifts. Not dramatic changes, not extreme protocols, just consistent adjustments that taught my body effort is safe again. The first thing that I had to learn was how to move into effort without triggering panic in my system. And not physical panic that you can see from the outside, but that internal rush, that bracing, that little feeling of overwhelm that starts to build when the body senses that too much is happening too fast. So instead of jumping straight into intensity, I slowed the ramp up. I gave my body time to adjust. I gave it time to recognize that, okay, this is effort, but it is not a threat. And I paid attention to the early signals. So I didn't wait for the moment of collapse, but I acknowledged the moment before it. And in that moment, maybe the breathing became a little bit tight for me, or tension started to creep in, or my body began bracing. So what I did, instead of pushing through that, was that I paused. I was not stopping everything entirely. I just softened and I paused. I let the system settle before continuing. And just that shift alone made a huge difference. And the second shift was realizing that recovery wasn't optional. It wasn't something I did if I had time. I let recovery become a part of training itself. Like just as important as movement, just as important as strength. So after effort, I didn't immediately move on. I didn't rush to the next thing, but I stayed with my body. I let my breathing slow down and I used long exhales to help the pulse settle. Sometimes I just stood still for a little moment, feet on the ground, jaw relaxed, and my shoulders soft. Just letting the system to catch up again and not to force any recovery, just allow it to arise. Because what your nervous system learns from those small moments is that effort happened and then safety followed. And the third shift, the one that takes patience, was repetition. So not one good workout, not one calm moment, not one successful day, but many small, safe, repeated experiences, because your nervous system does not trust words. It trusts patterns and it trusts what happens again and again. So every single time that I moved into effort and allowed recovery and avoided pushing into shutdown, I was teaching my body something new. I was showing it over and over again that this is safe, this is manageable, and this is not the same as before. And over time, something incredible started to happen. These stairs did not feel threatening anymore. My pulse rising did not feel alarming. And effort began to feel like effort again. Safety isn't declared, it is practiced. Not once, not perfectly, but consistently enough that your body begins to believe it. So if you recognize yourself in this, if workouts suddenly feel heavier than they used to, or if your body feels anxious or shaky or unusually drained after effort, I want to give you a few simple ways to support your body. Because this isn't about doing more, it is about doing it differently. And the first place this starts is actually before the workout even begins. And not with how strong you feel, but with how regulated you feel. So before a workout, instead of asking, how hard can I push today? Try asking, how regulated do I feel right now? Do I feel calm enough to handle effort? Is my breath steady? Is my body already tense? Is my mind racing? Because if you enter effort already braced, already stressed, already overloaded, your nervous system has less capacity to handle what comes next. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't move. It just means that you might need to enter more gently. Maybe starting slower, like giving your system a chance to warm up, and not physically, but neurologically, like actually letting your body settle into movement instead of shocking it into intensity. And the second place to pay attention is during effort itself, to notice, and especially your breath, because your breath tells you a lot about your nervous system state. So while you are moving, ask yourself, is my breath smooth? or is it braced? Does it feel steady or tight and forced? Am I holding my breath without realizing? Or am I pushing through tension that just keeps on building now? Because braced breathing often means that your nervous system is interpreting effort as pressure. And that is usually the moment people choose to push harder. When what the body actually needs is a softening, slow down, like a moment to get back to the breath, just allowing it to catch up. And now, after the workout, and this part is the most important one, what you do after effort. Because many people, they finish a workout and then immediately rush out, grab the things and check their phone and just move to the next task. No pause, no transition, no signal to the body that the effort is complete. But your nervous system needs closure. It needs to feel the shift from activation back into safety. So after your next workout, instead of rushing away, pause, even for just a minute. Stand still or sit down and let your breath slow naturally. And then gentle lengthen the exhale, just slightly longer than the inhale. And let your shoulders soften, let your jaw relax, and give your body just a small moment to settle. To recognize that the effort is now over and that you are now safe. Recovery teaches the nervous system what safety feels like after effort, not just rest. Recovery, like intentional settling, intentional softening, intentional signaling to the body that activation has ended. And over time, those small pauses begin to matter more than you think, and they become the bridge between effort and safety. Is that bridge between strength and regulation and between movement and recovery. And that bridge is what helps your body relearn that effort is now danger. And I want to take a moment here to say this, because if you are listening and you are recognizing yourself in what I have been speaking about today, you are not unusual in this. This is something that I see more often than people realize, and especially in people who used to feel very strong in their bodies. People who were active, people who were disciplined and reliable. I've seen this a lot in people who were used to handling pressure and used to pushing through and used to showing up even when things were hard. I work with many clients who come to me with exactly this experience, often after burnout or after long periods of stress, and sometimes after years of performing at a really, really high level. And what they describe is so similar. They say things like, I used to handle this so easily, I used to feel strong, and I have no understanding of why this now feels so overwhelming. And not just workouts, but stairs like me, walking uphill or returning to movement after time off. Even simple effort suddenly feels so much heavier than it used to. And not because they forgot how to move or do it, but because their nervous system has been carrying too much for too long. And this is the part that matters so much to understand. These are not weak people. They are not fragile. They are not unmotivated. These are often some of the most capable people you will ever meet. People who stayed strong for others, people who held responsibility, people who kept going long after their system needed recovery. These are people who didn't quit even when their bodies were asking them to slow down. And when they come into this work, what we focus on isn't pushing harder. It is not forcing the body back into performance. It is retraining safety, step by step, in a way that allows effort to feel manageable again. Because the goal is not to remove effort from your life. It is to change how your body experiences it. So effort becomes strength again and movement becomes empowering again. And so that activation becomes something your body can handle without collapsing afterward. And watching that shift in people, watching them return to movement and return to strength and return to confidence in their own bodies is one of the most meaningful parts of the work that I do. Because there's something so powerful about realizing that your body didn't fail you, it protected you. And now it can learn something new. So if you have been listening to this and recognizing yourself feeling that strength, exhaustion after effort, feeling anxious when your pulses rises, or feeling confused about why your body doesn't respond the way it used to, I want to leave you with something very clear. You are not broken. Your body didn't suddenly fail you. And this isn't a sign that your strength disappeared. What happened is that your body learned survival. It learned how to keep going during stress. It learned how to stay alert when recovery wasn't available. And it learned how to function when the pressure was high. And those patterns, they do not mean weakness. They mean adaptation. They mean your system did exactly what it was designed to do: protect you, carry you, help you get through. And anything your nervous system learned can be relearned. It can be relearned through small experiences of safety and through repetition and through showing your body again and again that effort is no longer something it has to fear. And maybe the most important thing that I want you to take with you now from this episode is that this is not about fixing yourself. It's about learning yourself, understanding what your body has been through, and recognizing what it adapted to, and beginning to support it differently with more patience, more awareness, more compassion. Because strength is not just about pushing, it is also about listening and about adjusting, and it is about rebuilding trust between you and your body, one step at a time, one breath at a time, and one safe experience at a time. And if your body feels tired after effort, if movement feels heavier than it used to, let this be a reminder that you don't need to force your way back to strength. You can rebuild it gently, intentionally, with your nervous system and not against it. So wherever you are right now, take one slow breath and let your shoulders soften just a little. And remind yourself, nothing is wrong with me. My body learned survival, and survival patterns can be relearned. And as you move into the rest of your day, I want you to stay curious about what your body is telling you. And I want you to stay patient with the process of rebuilding. And I want you to stay kind to the parts of you that worked so hard to keep going. And as always, stay aligned, stay curious, and most important of all, stay true to yourself.